2013 was a really weird year for Nickelodeon. Hits like Victorious and Big Time Rush came to an end, iCarly had ended a year prior. It really felt like Nickelodeon was transitioning from an era that started in the late 2000s. And really, it's kind of because they were. Maybe every 6 years or so, kid networks will have what I like to call transition years. It's when they generally get rid of the stuff tied to a previous generation and usher in a new one. And Knicks, as stated before, had theirs in 2013. But that same year, Nickelodeon released a project that in my eyes was a way to celebrate the end of an era. A project that involved multiple people from previous Nickelodeon projects coming together to create what would perhaps unintentionally be viewed as sort of like the finale of that time period. And that project was technically Sam and Cat, but like, I ain't quitting reviews. So instead, we're going to talk about the other project that involved multiple people from previous Nickelodeon projects coming together to create what would perhaps unintentionally be viewed as sort of like the finale of that time period, the 2013 Nickelodeon original movie, Swindle. Y'all have been requesting it for a while, and so I thought it was officially time that I do it. I'm even doing it on the 10th anniversary too. How about that? At least it should be on the 10th anniversary. I'm not entirely sure. I probably shouldn't even include this part, but oh well.
You ripped us off.
Face it, dude, you got Swindle.
When these 6 super specialists team up, they bring the justice.
We need to get that card back. If we can do that, then we've pulled off the ultimate swindle.
Like Noah Crawford as Griffin, the brains.
Trust me, I've got a plan.
See Noah lead the ultimate mission.
You ready to make $1 million?
Go, guys, go! Don't miss the world premiere of Nickelodeon's all-star movie, Swindle. The payback is on Saturday, August 24th at 8.
Feeling pretty egotastic right now?
Only on Nick.
This hotel is stupid easy to hack. Hello? Firewall anybody?
You know, it's funny you should say that, Sierra Bravo, because today's video is actually brought to you by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, aka a virtual private network service that can help you protect your privacy and security online. It uses military-grade encryption to keep your data safe and can protect you against malware. But it can also do some pretty cool stuff too. You can use Surfshark to access your favorite shows and movies on your favorite streaming service that may not be normally available in your region. Additionally, it can protect you while surfing on public Wi-Fi, like if you're staying at a hotel or if you're at an airport and your flight gets delayed 3.5 hours and you're forced to sit on uncomfortable chairs the whole time and... Sorry, I just went on a trip recently and had to vent. Surfshark is a great way to protect your privacy and security online. It's affordable, easy to use, and offers a variety of features that'll improve and enhance the way you surf the internet. And I'm just now getting why they call it Surfshark. Wow.
Something's wrong with me.
So now that you know all of these things, you should try it out today and see the difference it makes. You can use promo code STALGIA for an extra 3 months free. STALGIA. Just click the link in the description. And thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Swindle premiered on Nickelodeon on August 24th, 2013. Quick story time. This movie came out after I had kind of retired from watching Nickelodeon, but I do remember this day very well as it holds a lot of value to me. On August 24th, 2013, my family got a new dog. This ain't actually him, by the way, but this is basically what he looks like. We had to set up a little area for him in the living room, but since he was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months old at the time, I had offered to sleep in the living room as well to keep him company. That night, Swindle was premiering on Nickelodeon, and although I was no longer regularly watching the channel at the time, I thought I'd give it a watch anyway. But I've only rewatched it like once since then, so I truly don't know if it holds up or not. Just thought I'd give you guys some nostalgia lore. I know it's been a while. More lore reveals coming soon. Just wait until I finally tell y'all about what happened in Connecticut. Alright, let me actually start talking about this movie before I get a comment complaining about how it took me so long to start talking about the movie. Swindle is actually based on a book that came out in 2008. I remember seeing the book in the library as a kid, but I never actually read it. But what I do know is that the book has a lot of characters in it, so to help properly bring it to life, Nickelodeon brought together a bunch of stars from their biggest sitcoms. For the most part, at least. We got Sierra Bravo from Big Time Rush, Noah Monk and Jeanette McCurdy from iCarly, Ariana Grande from Victorious, and last but not least, Noah Crawford and Chris O'Neill from How to Rock. So, Let me talk to you about these two real quick. I don't remember much from How to Rock, but what I do remember is these two having insane comedic chemistry with each other, to the point where not only did they stick them together in this film, but they even gave them their own clip/blooper show a little later. These two could have gone somewhere for real had they not been on a show that lasted one season. You put these two on Victorious or something, and they might still get talked about today. How to Rock review coming soon, by the way. Probably. The movie was directed by Jonathan Judge, known for directing one of the best episodes of Zeke and Luther, Sibling Rivalries. For the new people out there, I try to reference Zeke and Luther in every single one of my videos, and usually it comes natural. But admittedly, I was struggling with this one until I just randomly decided to look up if the director had worked on any Zeke and Luther episodes, and sure enough, he did. Perfect. As for the plot of the film, Griffin Bing is a high school student who is known for helping people achieve and obtain all sorts of things, ranging from foreign hair gels to video games that haven't actually been released yet. His best friend Ben's family is in danger of moving to another state due to a lack of funds to support them. Ben's dad is an inventor who is trying to sell his go-go gadget to this Shark Tank type show called the Snake Pit. It costs $300 to get in, but when he accidentally uses his gadget in the wrong direction, he creates a hole in the wall that'll cost, you guessed it, $300 to fix. Later they find a Honus Wagner baseball card that was sandwiched between the wall. Yes, he is in fact a real person. They decide to sell it to a shop owner named Paul Swindle, who after a lot of negotiating takes it for $350. As it turns out though, the card is actually worth a lot of money, and Paul Swindle swindled the two teens into giving it to them for less than what it's worth, and he plans on selling it for $1.2 million. Enraged by this, Griffin and Ben go back to the shop and demand they get their card back, but Swindle doesn't budge because he's a terrible person. Feeling bad about all of this, since he was the one that sold the card to Swindle without doing any research about it online, Griffin believes he has no other choice but to take it back from him somehow. Right off the bat, one thing I appreciate about this movie is how different it is from other kids' network TV movies. Every time they introduce a character, they always do this cool thing where it zooms up on them and it shows their role in the film right next to them. I like when films have some fun with the editing instead of doing things the old-fashioned way. There's nothing wrong with the old-fashioned way, but going away from that and doing things your own way automatically creates a much more fun vibe to your film, and also helps to stand out from the rest, even if your film is absolute trash. Turns out there's a few people at school that owe Griffin a favor, and so he uses this as leverage to convince them to join his team. First, there's Darren Vader, played by post iCarly. Noah Monk appeared in 2 Nickelodeon original movies, both releasing in the same year. He was also supposed to reprise his role as Gibby in his own spin-off, but you know what ended up happening next. His main purpose on the team is to be the muscle. He also has his own ride, which will definitely come in handy. There's also Amanda Benson, who is, according to Griffin, the second prettiest girl in school. Her main talent is that she's a gymnast, so she can be used to get into places that no one else on the team can. Then there's Savannah Westcott, who's a part of the school's drama club. Her main skill is acting, which will be useful for undercover stuff. And rounding out the team, we have Melissa Bing, who is Griffin's younger sister. Despite not being on the team during the first mission of the movie, she becomes a valuable asset later on, joining in as the team's hacker. Despite Amanda, Savannah, and Darren all owing Griffin for various reasons, they turned him down several times. But then, Ben mentions that all of them will receive $25,000 each if they help him retrieve the card, since he'd be immediately selling it anyway. It's only then do they all agree to help.
Found it. We'll be right back. On Nick.
Gnarly nosedives. Barfing babies. Noah and Chris from How to Rock bring you a special preview of Nick's new show you just gotta see. You gotta see this. Tonight at 9:30, right after Camp Fred.
Now back to the show. On Nick.
First, they execute a really intricate plan that involves sneaking into Swindle's shop to disable the alarm and distracting Swindle as he's getting Chinese food. While that's happening, a few of the team members are inside the shop looking for the card. They eventually find it, but after they do, Swindle comes into the shop. After some thinking, they realize that if they stole it right now, Swindle would know exactly who took it, making at least Griffin and Ben suspects for thievery. I don't know why it took them so long to realize that, but whatever. While everyone was in the shop figuring out how to escape without getting caught, Griffin overhears Swindle talking to his rich collector named Anton Anton. He invites him to auction the card to him at the Lakeshore Hotel later in the week. So now the plan is to figure out a way to get Swindle to hand it to them, so they don't get hit with any crimes. Griffin's new plan involves Amanda going into another student's house named Eddie. Eddie is a nerd who we see earlier in the film who owns countless rare collector's items, and Amanda's job is to try to convince him into giving him one. Eddie takes her upstairs to his room so he can show her his man cave. I gotta say, this is some pretty fire stuff. I got a little collection of my own. As you can see, I'm actually one of the last people in the world to own this exclusive Disney Channel Games poster from 2008. It's pretty cool if I do say so myself. You know, one thing that's always managed to surprise me whenever I watch this movie is the fact that they were allowed to just casually name drop Star Wars and Star Trek, especially since every other replica or figure that they show is made up for this movie. You almost never actually see Nick shows or movies name drop actual IPs like this, so this is kind of rare. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, but the reason why Amanda is wearing glasses is because they're actually recording everything that she's doing and broadcasting it to the gang in the truck so they can see and monitor her every move. But Nerdy Kid does some nerdy stuff and accidentally assaults Amanda with his nerdy weapon replica. The glasses end up breaking, which causes them to lose the ability to speak to Amanda, so now she just has to improv. Thinking that the glasses stop the playback completely, Amanda confesses to Eddie that she's in love with his collection and reveals that she is a geek too. She recognizes all of his figures and collectibles and spots a red-haired Captain Cybertor, something that is very rare and worth a lot of money. She convinces him to let her borrow it for a few days and he agrees. But off camera we find out that he only agrees because she said she'll go on a date with him. She goes back to the van and the group makes a few jokes about what they saw. Amanda explains that in her old school people used to call her Mandy the Mutant because of how much of a geek she was, but since then she has transformed herself into, well, Ariana Grande. During the following montage we get some narration from Griffin, accompanied by the gang gearing up for their big heist. One thing worth pointing out is that apparently other people have been swindled by Swindle and have filed complaints against him. With this being the case, you have to wonder how this dude is still the owner of his shop. We see some other stuff like Gibby getting his Tony Stark on and Griffin trying on new wigs to disguise himself as Anton. All of this leading to the team finally ready to make their move and take the card back.
Let's swindle a swindler.
At the hotel, the group gets into their positions. Melissa hacks the hotel and duplicates Swindle's reservation, putting the reservation under the name Paula Swindle at the top of the hotel and Paul Swindle at the bottom of the hotel. So this is kind of illegal, so I don't, recommend doing this. Savannah pulls up, posing as Paula, the fake reservation Melissa created, and checks into the luxury hotel room. And of course, they use Swindle's credit card to pay for it, which again, I'm pretty sure is against the law, so I do not recommend doing that. Side note, but this woman looks really familiar, and it's bothering me. I couldn't find her name in the credits, so if anyone knows who she is, please let me know. The boys run into a bit of complication though. The snake pit is going to be held at the hotel, meaning now they have to try to do everything they can to avoid running into Ben's dad. In case anyone is confused by this, remember, Ben still sold the card for $350, so that's how his dad was able to afford to enter the snake pit after the incident with the wall. Everyone arrives in the hotel room and is amazed by how luxurious it is.
Guys, TV in the bathroom. You can totally watch a game while you're taking a massive...
Please don't say it.
Nah, say it. Say it with your chest, big man. Anton arrives to his hotel room, so it's time for everyone to put their plan in motion. Amanda poses as a facial makeup beauty person, I don't know what the proper name is and I'm not looking it up, to give him a skincare treatment. It'll make sense later. Savannah and Darren meanwhile greet Swindle at the door as he's coming to check in and pretend to be two German kids who let Swindle lie to them about the red-headed Captain Cybertor's actual price. Swindle swindles them into giving them $10 for it despite its rare value. The facial mask pulled from Anton's face was used to create a disguise that transforms Griffin into him. Funny thing is, I watched this movie in the middle of binge watching the Mission Impossible films, and they basically do the same thing. Speaking of which, the third one is the most underrated movie in the franchise. Griffin gets a call from a big Russian collector named Ivan Volkov, who is after a red-headed Captain Cybertor. But his face starts to melt and his fake nose begins to droop to the ground. He ends up escaping successfully with nobody noticing somehow. Swindle meets up with Volkov and tells him about his red-haired Captain Cybertor. So he goes to get it, but before he gets a chance to, Amanda switches the red-haired one with the blue-haired one that she also got from Eddie's house. Swindle grabs the box and completes the sale with Volkov, but runs into Ben afterwards. He starts to figure everything out, saying that he's the one who's been responsible for all of the bad things happening to him since arriving at the hotel, like getting fed squid and the incident earlier in the elevator. Ben runs away and drops his hotel room keycard. Swindle follows him and enters the hotel room, but the gang was prepared for this, so they confront him and tell him about the Cybertor switch. They offer him the red Cybertor in exchange for the Honus Wagner card and show him footage of Volkov furious at Swindle for giving him the blue one. This is an issue because earlier Volkov mentioned that the last person who messed with him mysteriously vanished from the face of the earth, so this puts Swindle in a tough spot. Does he return the card to the kids in exchange for the actual redheaded Cybertor and, his life? Or does he come up with a new plan? Find out after the commercial break.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Nick on the way. Let's get back to the action right now.
Yeah, so we totally just lunges at Griffin, which makes everyone play keep away from Swindle for a few seconds. That is, until Ben decides to Magic Johnson pass it off the roof.
That thing does not obey the laws of physics at all.
So they chase Swindle throughout the hotel, and somehow, none of these young teenagers are able to catch up to this 40-something-year-old man who probably has arthritis forming in his knees. The dumbest part is that they literally saw him go down the stairs, yet they chose to instead use the elevator. Like Mike put it plainly, stairs are faster than the elevator. That's a crazy reference. And the worst part is, I'm pretty sure the only reason why the writers put that into the script is so they could pull off this dumb joke where the main characters listen to Call Me Maybe. Yeah, this movie was filmed in 2012 and they make it very obvious. They even make another dumb Call Me Maybe joke earlier in the film.
Here's my card. Call me. Maybe. And drink plenty of water.
Surely, we've seen the last of the Call Me Maybe jokes though. There's no way they do it 3 times. The chase ends up interrupting the production of the Snake Pit TV show. Swindle charges his way through and literally pushes Ben's dad for absolutely no reason. He could have easily went around him, but instead he went into him on purpose just to push him.
That's gotta be racist. There's no way.
Ben's dad uses his go-go gadget device to accidentally punch Swindle, which sends him flying. Another dude who was trying out his invention accidentally lasers off some of his hair. Then someone else rips off his pants. Bro is having a bad day all around. They continue to chase Swindle throughout the hotel as the song It Gets Better by Fun plays in the background. The song isn't quite kid-friendly, but at least it's not Call Me Maybe. Swindle crashes the wedding and spots the cake. Griffin distracts the crowd by directing their attention to Darren and Savannah.
Everybody dance! Come alive! Woo! Hey, I just met you.
Are you kidding me? Man, it's a good thing the rest of this movie is pretty decent, because if they pulled this in Starstruck or something, man, So they end up tackling the cake and a food fight breaks out. Man, they're trying to be Rugrats in Paris so bad. Swindle grabs the toy and runs away, and they chase after him. After cornering him, a door opens up and the angry Russian man from earlier demands to know the whereabouts of Swindle. Swindle gets up and says he doesn't have the red-headed Cybertron or whatever it's called, but Griffin mentions that he does. So he tells Swindle that he will give him the figure if he gets the card back, and Swindle reluctantly agrees, then hands the cyber chase thing to Volkov. He does the dash, and the gang celebrate a job well done. It's also revealed that Volkov is actually Savannah's father, who is also an actor. Anton hears all of this commotion happening and wants to know what's going on. Griffin tells him that he's the owner of the Honus Wagner card and wants to sell it to him. Swindle is making his way out of the hotel, but drops the briefcase of money he got earlier from Volkov, which actually just contains a bunch of pictures of Honus Wagner with Swindle's face on it. Talk about a taste of your own medicine. The next day at school, Ben hands out the money to everyone that was involved, but mentions that because his dad's Go-Go Gadget tool successfully took down a bad guy, the police offered a bunch of different versions of it to use on the force, meaning that his family didn't even really need the money from the card to begin with. But now that he has all of this money left over, he plans on using it to pay for everyone's college. And anything else after that, they can spend together, since they work together on getting the Honus Wagner card. Savannah asks what could they possibly spend that money on though, and that's when a little girl walks up to Griffin and asks if he can help her get her apparently rare species bird back from a guy who tricked her into giving it up. So that's when everyone in the gang realizes that from now on, they're going to use the money they got from the Wagner card to help other people. And the movie ends with Ben tripping over absolutely nothing and launching his drink into the air because he's the quirky one, I guess. So, final thoughts on the movie Swindle. Yeah, it's pretty decent. You know, believe it or not, I was actually kind of struggling with this one because it's just painfully pretty decent. In terms of Nickelodeon original movies, this really is one of the best, but I feel like that's due to a lack of competition. But don't get me wrong, I think this is a 3 out of 5 film. It's solid, it's nothing too praiseworthy, but it's also nothing to just completely roast either, like other films I reviewed. The characters are fine, with Griffin being the biggest standout for me. This is one of the coolest dudes I've ever seen in any movie ever. Like, he really has everything figured out. But the movie doesn't make him too OP either, which I like. The whole reason why the main plot of this movie happens is because of the fact that he just forgot to look up the value of the card first before giving it to Swindle. A very human thing to do. He got that dog in him though, don't get me wrong. The other characters are extremely passable and handle their roles in the movie well. Savannah actually stood out the least for me though, which is funny because Jeanette actually gets top billing in the movie despite Noah Crawford being the real lead. And I really hated Swindle, but that was supposed to be the case, so it worked out. I like the overall tone of this film too. It kind of feels like a really watered down version of Mission Impossible but for kids, which is cool. But I think one of the issues with it though is that it just isn't really funny, like at all. I know you're probably thinking, well, it's a kids film, I'm sure kids laughed at it. Yeah, I'm sure too, but like I remember at least smirking at some jokes in Hatching Pete or Minutemen. Considering how funny an actor Chris O'Neill is, I feel like they kind of wasted him in this movie. He's so much funnier in How to Rock. And since Ben was supposed to be the comic relief character, he should have easily carried the movie on his back, but he didn't. Then there's the issue of the plot in general. It's a good plot, but the movie does very little to actually make me care about it. The main reason why Griffin wants to help Ben get the card back so badly is because of the fact he's his best friend and the only person that doesn't constantly want something from him. Which is fine. But the problem is that this is only ever brought up once in one singular line of dialogue. Even if that is the case, can we maybe see that in the opening or something? With their relationship being such a driving force for the film, you'd think they'd spend a little more time talking about it. This movie also kinda doesn't have any heart or emotion. It never actually slows down and has that one scene that adds more meaning to the plot, which sometimes isn't a bad thing, but I think this movie definitely needed one. I still liked it though. I consider it an underrated gem. Considering its cast, I'm surprised I don't see it brought up more, but at the same time, I'm not too surprised because it just wasn't that memorable. Things happen in it, the plot gets resolved, and that's kinda it. But enough from me. I want to know what you guys thought about the movie. Let me know in the comments below. I'm Mr. Nostalgia, and make sure you guys watch Blue Beetle in theaters.